All right, welcome everybody. Thanks again for taking time out of your busy Thursdays and making time for this call. We've got a good agenda planned, and as always, I just want to encourage maximum participation. As you all know, the more you all participate and share, the better the quality of these calls. So, with that in mind, we're going to dig into some program wins and challenges. We're going to continue talking through the sales protocol, and we're going to have our round robin discussion, and if there's any time at the end, we will have some open discussion. So we'd like to start by sharing any wins or challenges they're facing in their business since we last talked or over the last couple of weeks, and please don't be shy.
Well, this is Bernd. Let me kick this off. I signed a member yesterday.
Yay!
Yeah, they were. I was counting these are the 50-50 partners. You remember me talking about that?
Yeah.
I certainly was hoping they were signing up for a board, but at the moment it's coaching only. They're working on a bid for a large project, and both of them are concerned that they just won't have the time. If they win it, they won't have the time for the board, and that's fair. Certainly, I'll take it where it is at the moment. I think it's going to be really good working with these guys. Their real motivation was exit planning. And I don't know if anybody of you were listening to Dave Scarola's call on Monday where John Dini was on with his exit map, or rather the centricity quiz. But I have affiliated myself with the exit map, and I send out some of these assessments to these guys beforehand, and had a good conversation yesterday morning, and that kind of, I believe that was the trigger for them eventually signing up there. So, positive, obviously, would love to have these guys on the board, and it's never too late. They just have reasons at the moment not to join a board, but at the moment, I guess we're all excited to start working together and put an exit strategy together for them.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Anybody have any questions for Bernd on how he navigated this sales process with these partners?
Why don't you give us some details, Bernd?
Well, yeah, certainly can do that. I mean, the first contact was actually coming through LinkedIn, me reaching out, and one of the partners, Ed, he responded back and said, sounds interesting, and I responded and said, why don't we get together? So I went out for a discovery meeting. Didn't know that he had a 50% partner, or that there were two 50% partners at the time. So I walked into a meeting with two people sitting in the room rather than one, and that was okay. So we had a good conversation. Out of that, and it was, in all honesty, it went right there already in questions which are in the RFA. So there wasn't a clear distinguish discovery meeting versus RFA, but it ended with then asking how can we experience the board, and I said if you want to, you can certainly come as a guest advisor. And then Ed became a guest advisor in the April board meeting. I could see in his demeanor and facial expression that some of the things he was a little bit surprised they were discussed, and that was positively surprised. So it was certainly an atmosphere he wasn't quite used to. He left it pretty positive, very positive, and then I got in touch with him afterwards, and we made another appointment, which was yesterday. That was 2 weeks out at the time when we made that, and I just didn't want it to have 2 weeks going by and them thinking about it too much without having another touch point. So I just completely unsolicited sent them this email and saying, look, we discussed exit planning a fair bit here. I have these two assessments. So if you want to take them, we'll definitely have a good base for a discussion when we meet then coming Wednesday. They were a little bit lazy. They took the assessments the morning we were meeting yesterday morning, so I really didn't have the reports at hand. But so that was the negative part of it. But the positive part was they went into that meeting and just took the assessments 30 minutes before the meeting, so everything was fresh in their mind. And it's all about raising awareness, understanding what that means when you start your exit planning process. And we had a real good discussion, and frankly, they were pretty open right from the get-go and saying, well, we're concerned about the time investment into a board at the moment, but let's talk about exit planning a little bit more. So it was 80% of the time spent discussing exit planning, but it kind of worked out, and they signed up at the end of the day, or at the end of the meeting, I should rather say.
Very good.
Out of curiosity. Sorry, what was that?
Bernd, out of curiosity, when they attended the board as guest advisors, did you give them time to present a topic, or did they just come, experience, and provide insights, but then they didn't get any feedback on a particular topic that they had?
No, I do prime them up front. I'm saying this is how the structure of the board meeting is, and this is how you should prepare yourself. In all honesty, not all of them come prepared, and even if they do, these are people they don't know, they don't have a relationship with, not a formal, not an informal relationship. And I have never seen a guest advisor who is really that open and comes with a killer topic which everybody loves to discuss. So they are typically a little bit more reserved. They just come to observe, but it's all about them experience the atmosphere.
Okay. No, I was just curious. I have a couple of thoughts on my end, but.
No, I actually use that tool a fair bit, to be honest. I've primed my board. I told them I do get guest advisors in. It's never been a problem so far, and I use that to a degree even proactively.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Bernd before we move on? Very good. Well, again, Bernd, congratulations. It sounds like you really met them where they were and really invested in them instead of what you wanted from them. And I think that seems to me, just listening to you describe it, as what was the thing that led them to making that decision to work with you. So congratulations.
Thanks.
Any other wins or challenges that someone would like to share? I'm going to share one on behalf of Steve. He dropped off a few minutes ago, but we talked earlier this week, and so I know he was going to share this, so I'll just do my best to kind of just pick out the highlights for him. And I think it reinforces some things that we've been talking about on the owner-to-owner calls, sprint calls, and that is that he was having a bit of a rough day. Started the sprint and had 5 dials, 4 of which were non-connections. The 5th one was just somebody that was not very kind. We'll put it that way. He used different colorful language than I just did, but it was somebody that was rather abrupt and not very professional in the way that they spoke to him. And so at the end of that 5th call, he was kind of in that, felt himself going into that negative headspace where he was just feeling really frustrated and starting to doubt what he was doing. And so what he did is he got up from his desk. He walked in to a different room out of his office and just kind of reflected on who he really is, who he sees himself as, what his what his real why is. Why is he doing this? What's he trying to accomplish? Just a quick several minutes of reflection, and recentered and kind of cleared his negative thoughts out, walked back in the room, picked up the phone, and secured a discovery meeting and an RFA meeting on the calls that followed. So just a testament to somebody who recognized the head trash that was coming on and took action to disrupt it and change his perspective and came back to it and found success. So I would just encourage you all, we've talked about it several times, have an action plan. Have something that you're going to do when you feel yourself kind of falling into those negative spots. So,
Who was that again, Ben?
That was Steve Fishman, who did that.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other wins or challenges anyone would like to share? Last call before we move on. All right. This is becoming a routine part of our meeting, just reminding you all to submit your data reports. Use your customized link to submit those, and I need those at the end of every business week. And it just really helping me to see how meetings are moving forward and where things are going. Be sure to account for, so if you've had, let's say you had 3 discovery meetings held this week, in the numbers that follow, be sure that you're accounting for all 3 outcomes, what happened to them. Even if the meeting was scheduled and it's not for a while, make sure that you record it as a scheduled meeting. If there's no meeting scheduled but they're interested, make sure you account for that in the notes. And then if it was somebody who's not interested or not a good fit, again, make sure you account for those as well. So just continue to fill out those reports. They're providing good insight into how things are moving. And it's a very, very valuable part of this program so that we can really see where there are opportunities to get better as a group. All right, let's talk about the tab sales protocols a little bit more. So as we talked last week, there are several steps in the overall protocol. The first one is to set the appointment. The second is to keep the appointment, whether it's a discovery, a 22Q, or an event. Making sure that your prospects actually keep that appointment is a big part of this process. Then there's execution or completing the appointment. Make sure that you make it an effective conversation, that you're really connecting with your prospect, that you're identifying those emotional drivers, and telling their story back to them. And the next step is to convert the prospect forward from discovery to 22Q, from 22Q to membership, or from event to 22Q. Whatever the next step forward in the process is, make sure that you're owning that and getting the prospect to make decisions to move forward. Next step is either, like I said, the 22Q, an event, guest advisor, member, just making sure that you get the prospect to that next step. And then the last part of the protocol overall is being comfortable enough with the system that you are adapting it to your own style. So there is a script, but the script becomes much more effective when it becomes your script based on the outline of what is intended in the conversation. So do your best to adapt that script to make it your own so that you're very comfortable in each of those phases of the protocol. So what I'd like to do is dig in a little bit more to the step in the protocol called Keep the Appointment. So what I'd really like is for you all to share tips, tricks, techniques, things that you do that help your discovery or 22Q meetings become more sticky. What are some actions that you take that help you convert scheduled appointments to kept appointments with your prospects? How many of you send out calendar invitations to follow up with meetings that are scheduled? How many of you go back to your office and send an invite? Is that something that's done commonly?
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Is it
Yeah.
successful? Does it help you, or do you find that that's just an opportunity for them to opt out?
I think it's professional. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead, Valerie.
Mine rarely opt out. They sometimes reschedule, but they don't opt out.
Okay. So that's worked for you. What were you going to say, Mike?
I do it. I'm putting it on my calendar anyway. Literally going down to invite and add the name and email address is like nothing. I also feel it's more professional because you're literally saying, hey, you just said, and here it is. Just hit accept. They have to hit accept. Therefore, they're making a decision again. And then if they do choose to decline or reschedule, there's a place that can happen from, as opposed to just letting them ignore you.
All right. Anybody else? Do you find that sending that invitation is a benefit? Does it help in keeping the appointment process? Or is there another practice that you found that helps you, whether you're trying to keep a discovery or 22Q, or keep them or have them become a person who attends an event?
One thing I started doing with the calendar invites is I now make 2 calendar invites for every appointment, one of which goes to the client, and it has Valerie, your meeting with Valerie, and it has all of my details and my cell phone and my web address and my email address. And then I make another one for myself, which is their name and all of their details. And obviously they're not copied on that one. So I make sure that the calendar invite they get is nothing about them. It's all about me. So it doesn't say it doesn't say Valerie and Bob are meeting. It just says you're meeting with Valerie.
Right. I like that. Very good.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I like the second invite as well, where you're reminding yourself who you're meeting with and providing that information, because I know we all get in a moment where we're scrambling from one to the next and often don't have time to look things up. So having it in the calendar, I think, makes a lot of sense.
And I put at least 2 alerts on every calendar invite. One is a day ahead and one is an hour ahead.
I do the exact same thing with my appointments. All right. Any other best practices that you found for yourself and how to encourage appointment prospects to keep their appointment with you? Anything else that you all do? How about as it relates to an event? If you're trying to confirm or you want to make sure that people who have registered for an event attend the event, what are some of the things that you do to make that attendance more likely? I know Steve uses the issues brief document as a way to have them prepare for the event, as well as give him a perspective on what their issue might be. And that has actually, I think the last event he had, there were 13 registered and 12 attended. So it proved to be a very effective strategy for him. So maybe what I'm hearing by the lack of engagement in the call in this question is that we're not really having issues around keeping the appointment. Is that the case?
No, this is Manuel.
That's not the case. Well, maybe then we flip the thing. What haven't you done, or what are some of the issues you're having with keeping the appointment?
Well, like it was said, I do send a calendar invite for the meeting, and a couple of occasions it's been accepted, and then I got a message day before, and they needed to reschedule. One was rescheduled. The other one turned out that he had too many commitments and wasn't going to have time. But the appointment didn't even, like for the RFA, didn't happen. And then, so I've tried both, without just we wrap up the meeting. I'll say here, I'll see you on this day, and then send the calendar invite as well. I've kind of gone. I've been doing it both ways.
Okay. Just to give us a perspective, Manuel, what do you think your kept rate is on average with the appointments that you're setting? 50-50?
What?
The kept rate. How often are the appointments you're scheduling being kept?
Probably over 50%, 60 to 70%.
So really the question is, how do we, for those, 30 to 40% that are canceling or rescheduling, what are some things that we could do to help those to become stickier? We have to acknowledge that they're just appointments that are going to be canceled. We understand that. People do get busy. Things do come up. And I think we all know that and appreciate that. But what can you do to take your kept rate from 60 or 70 to 80 or 90%? Because that's really kind of the range we'd like it to be in.
Yeah, my kept rate is in the 80 to 90%. And what I find there's only two insights I have on this. One tip is never, ever, ever, ever reschedule the meeting yourself. It's the first meeting with a client. I've found this over the years, whether it's with TAB or my previous consultancy. If you reschedule the first meeting for some reason, it just goes all downhill from there. So kill yourself to keep that first meeting, no matter what God-given opportunity crosses your path at the same time. So that's it. And then the other thing is that 10% of the people are just flakes. No matter how many calendar invites, no matter how many emails you send them, no matter how many texts you send them to remind them that they've told you that they will meet you on Wednesday at 3 o'clock. There's 10% of the people that will call and say, sorry, I've got to reschedule, or did we say Wednesday? I didn't realize we said Wednesday. So there's just a percentage of the population out there who are flaky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say the other thing that I've learned, just in my own experience, and it might seem silly, is I never, ever, ever call to confirm, ever. I will try to find a reason to call, but it's never to confirm, because I feel like when I've called to confirm, it's an opportunity for them to cancel, and I actually have more that cancel than valid. So I might call to say, hey, I'm stopping to pick up coffee on my way to your office. Can I get you something? Something like that. I'll try to call before the appointment personally, but if I can't find a reason, I don't call. I never, ever call to confirm. I also never, ever call if I'm holding an event. Instead, there's a lot of background noise, so I don't know who's busy moving stuff around, but if you could mute, that'd be awesome. For an event, I never call to check menu or anything like that. I call to make sure that they understand I'm excited that they're going to be joining. I'm looking forward to having their participation, that kind of thing. I call to validate, I never call to confirm. I think we do need to find a way, especially when there's time in between your contact and the scheduled appointment. I think we need to find a way to have a meaningful contact with them in between the initial contact and the scheduled appointment. We all know that the longer the time period between the scheduling of the appointment and the keeping of the appointment, the higher the likelihood or possibility that it will be canceled or rescheduled. So we want to try to find a way to keep that connection fresh by reaching out or having a meaningful way to contact them or talk with them again. I was reading in a book, it's called The Half-Life of Enthusiasm, and we all have experienced it, and we all experience it every day. You come out of an event, or you attend a speaker, and they just say these great things, and you're really charged up and excited, and within an hour of leaving that meeting, you've forgotten a lot of what they said, and your enthusiasm for what you think you're going to do has started to wane. And a week later, there's even less enthusiasm for what you learned, and a month later, there's almost no enthusiasm still connected to that initial reaction that you had to whatever it was that you were excited about. We see it with new cars. You buy a new car, and it's the best thing ever when you get it, and within a month, it's just a car, and within a year or so, it's got dings and it's a beater. Maybe not that dramatic, but you understand the concept. So we have to be sensitive to that half-life of enthusiasm and make sure that we're doing what we can to keep the excitement high in the process. The more excited the prospect is in meeting with us, the more they're anticipating the meeting, obviously the higher the likelihood that they're going to keep that appointment with us. So I would just encourage you, think about what you can do to create meaningful connections with your prospects between scheduling and actually keeping that meeting. And I think you'll see some of your kept rates go up even more. All right, so we've covered setting the appointment. We've now talked a little bit about keeping the appointment. I would encourage you all over the next week or so, as you're thinking through this, if there's anything that comes to mind or you try something new, make a note of it and share it with us in the wins and challenges portion. If it works, it's a win. If it didn't work, then it's a challenge and something that we can continue to talk through. But the only way we get better is if we keep kind of talking through and working and trying new things as we go through this process. Next time we'll talk about completing the appointment or executing the appointment well, and obviously there's a lot of different types of meetings we can be holding, so this is a bit of a broad topic. But any tips or tricks or things that you do to make sure that your appointments go really well consistently, be thinking about those as well, and we'll share best practices the next time that we talk. All right, let's move forward to the round robin discussion question. If you know the source of your quote, that's always helpful, but definitely not a requirement. Don't worry about if it's not an exact quote. We understand that and modify them for our own behavior, for our own intent. So we'll give each other some grace and some flexibility with that as well. So we're going to start with the question, my favorite quote is, and follow that with because, and tell us why that's a good quote for you. We'll start with Bernd. I think Bernd's on the line. Yep, I see him there. Bernd, what is your favorite quote and why?
All right. Okay. I've got to go. Actually, I maintain a little sheet here where I write these things down, and once in a while I look at them just to get a little bit of wisdom. So I have multiple choices here, but just for giggles, I have this one here. Don't laugh at your wife's choices. You are one of them. All right. Seriously now. I've got a couple here, and I guess this is my favorite one. You are missing 100% of the shots you don't take. And you've probably heard that before. That's actually coming from Wayne Gretzky.
And why is that important to you?
You got to take a risk. You got to invest something, whatever that something is. You got to invest resources. You know, your own skills, your own time, obviously, you know, dollars, these sort of things. You got to take a risk to get results, positive results.
Very good. Excellent. I really like that. That's great. I have not actually heard that, but I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks, Bern. I appreciate it. How about you, Valerie?
I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to prepare for this, so I have so many quotes I love, but I don't know. My favorite political quote is, I'm not a member of any organized party. I'm a Democrat, by Will Rogers. My favorite sports quote is, love means nothing in tennis. But probably the quote that I refer to most often is Martin Luther King, the long arc of history bends towards justice. And that's probably because I would like to believe that there's karma and that bad things happen to bad people and good things happen to good people. So, but I've read a lot of good business ones. I like you miss all the shots you don't take. That's a great one, Pam. But I've got several business ones I can't think of off the top of my head.
That's fine. That's very good. I like the MLK quote. All right, very good. Thanks. Steve dropped off, so let's go to Mr. Grover in California. Mr. Grover in California.
Yeah, I had to swallow my coffee. So the only easy day was yesterday. I'm Navy guy, so I tend to have a lot of the Navy ones in my head. And so that's the Navy SEAL motto that they teach them at BUD/S training. And it resonates with me because I don't want to assume that tomorrow is going to be easier than today, because that makes you complacent.
Excellent. I like that. Even though it came from the Navy, I still like that.
Yeah, but it was the SEAL, so you got to
that's closer. Mr. Brown in Chicago.
So my favorite is a quote from John Newton, and I don't know if you know who everyone knows who John Newton is, but he was a slave trader in the 1800s, and he wrote Amazing Grace. And here's a quote from him. He says, I am not what I ought to be. I'm not what I want to be. I'm not what I hope to be in another world. But still, I'm not what I used to be. And by the grace of God, I am what I am.
Mike,
and to me, that's that life is a journey, and he's not finished with us.
But he was a slave trader, Mike.
Yeah, he was, but he came to faith, and really, if you listen to the words or know the words of Amazing Grace, he was a new man after what happened to him.
Did he renounce slave trading?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. I mean, yeah. His life totally turned around. I mean, you should look at the words of Amazing Grace, and it is he knows what a wretch he was, you know. And he's a new creation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great song. Yes, I didn't.
It's a great song, and it reflects his life. Is what. I mean, if you read about him, that's what happened to him. You know.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike, for sharing. I appreciate that, and I agree. You know, we are all in process, and I think it's really good to understand that and remember that, not just for ourselves, but for the people in our lives. Manuel, what's your quote and why?
Well, there's like others, there's quite a few to pick from, and there's a lot of value in them. I guess the one that I came across most recently, and it's from Peter Pan, actually, and it says, "The moment you doubt whether you can fill in the blank, you cease to forever be able to do it." And this, to me, is important because it has everything to do with mindset, right? And it's another way to describe it is if you think that you can or cannot do it, either way, you're right. So when you believe that you can do something, you're that more likely to succeed at it. So.
Very good. I like that a lot. And I think it's a great reminder that I've heard that the other quote that you referenced there, Manuel, several times, whether you think you can or you can't, either way, you're right. I just believe that is so true. And we are the ones most often that put the fence around our potential much more than others or circumstances ever do. So I usually don't participate in this, but I've got a couple I'd like to share, if that's okay with everybody. The first one that I'd like to share is from my time serving in the Department of Veterans Affairs. I was in the VA when General Shinzeki was our secretary, and one of the things that he said often was, if you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance even less. And I just love that because it's a reminder that change is the only constant. And if you're not willing to change, whether it's in your business or in your personal life, you're going to quickly move to that point where you're no longer making an impact in the world that you're living in, whether it's personally or professionally. The other thing that I really like that kind of emphasizes that, and I think you've all seen this at various times in some of the stuff that I've written and emailed, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And so, again, just a reminder that if the results you are getting are not what you're wanting, then something has got to change. I actually prefer this to the insanity quote just because I think it connects a little deeper and puts it in real terms. Whether it's a bad habit or whether it's a life choice that you want to change or whether it's the way that you're running your business. Your results don't change if you don't do something differently. So just great reminders for me. I've actually got both of those in my office here posted so that I can see them. I'm going to share one more, and this is just a personal thing because I've struggled at times being a high D of just being very directive and not really remembering the people that I'm working with. And so the quote is, a prerequisite to empathy is simply paying attention to the person in pain. So I would just, again, just for me, it helps me remember that everybody's got stuff going on and I can never relate unless I understand and listen and really pay attention to what's going on with the person I'm talking to. All right. That's my 2 cents or 3 cents, I guess.
You know, of course, that Shinsuke was a good Hawaii boy.
I do know he was a good Hawaii boy.
He was actually from Kauai, which is currently underwater.
Yeah. And I also don't hold the fact that he was an Army general against him. All right.
So what? I'm sorry.
He was a 4-star Army general.
Oh.
All right. Open discussion.
Ben,
Yeah.
yeah, I've got one here. So if somebody is interested in getting more quotes, I actually found a little Chrome extension which is called My Quotes. So if you install that in your Chrome browser, every time you open up an empty tab, it actually refers back to this little extension, and you get a new quote.
Oh, interesting.
Can you tell it what kind of quotes you want, or you just get whatever it tells you, or whatever it sends you?
No, actually, it's just random. You can't tell it what you want to get, but I'm looking at one here, and it says you can do more than you think. And if I open a new one, the next one comes up: eat good, feel good. So it actually becomes the background on the new tab, and then you type into this box. You type whatever either you search for something or you're typing in a URL. So it's kind of your browser bar.
Awesome.
It's really small extension. You'll find it in the Chrome extension store or whatever they call it, the Chrome Web Store, I believe it's called. It's called My Quotes New Tab.
Very cool. I think I'm going to actually go try to find that. That's one of the extensions I like. All right. All right, so we've got about 10 minutes or so for open discussion. Is there anything else that any of you have on your mind that you would like to share with the group or get some feedback on? All right, so what that means is we are going to wrap this call up 12 minutes early, 13 minutes early according to my clock, which is a first for us. I think that's pretty cool. So you all get a few more minutes back in your day. And just want to remind you, we've got our owner-to-owner sprint call later this afternoon starting at 3 o'clock Eastern Time or 12 o'clock Pacific. If you're able to join that, I would welcome you. We've had some great learnings this week. And so the more that participate, the more opportunity there is for us to grow and learn together. Trying to think, next week, Monday through Wednesday, I will be assisting Phil again with initial sales training. So those of you that have appointments with me Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of the week, I will be reaching out to you to either reschedule or postpone those coaching sessions because of that training. So we've got an Australian TBO on site going through the first part of training, and we get to teach her the sales portion next week. Other than that, if any of you have anything that you'd like to chat offline, don't hesitate to reach out anytime. Thanks again for your attendance today, and have a great Thursday afternoon and end your weeks well.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ben.